What's up, everybody? Welcome into the Fantasy Alarm Quick Out podcast. As you can see, John and Pemba not with us today. It's my birthday, and my birthday wish came true. We're doing the tight end episode, and I hoped that the OG tight end whisperer, Howard Bender, would join us for this special one, and it happened. Howard, how we doing, buddy?
I'm doing pretty well. I got to be honest with you, man. Not even my wife wishes for me on her birthday. For my wife's birthday, she wishes that I'm not there, that she could actually go and do something else more fun with some of her friends, as opposed to just sitting with me as a huge stick in the mud. But, hey, listen, man, psyched to be here. Happy to talk tight ends with you. We were just talking right before the show started. I almost wore the same shirt as you, but I did not. Shout out to Brad Starks at Roto Lounge for the Bourbon Bowl. What a great league, and we could tell you more about how to get involved with that. But you know what? I decided I was going to put on my purple shirt. I wear this shirt because my niece was like a huge fan of Grimace from McDonald's.
Whoa, whoa! Look out now, dude. We got the Grimace gear up in here, baby.
Oh,
Big
see,
day.
even better. So,
shout out to your niece.
Given the fact that I'm a little on the heavy side, when I wear this shirt, it makes me look like Grimace. So I like to go out for some McDonald's. But let's talk some tight ends.
You're a man of the people. You're a man of the people. The people want Grimace. He's Grimace, dude. I want tight ends on my birthday. Here you are, dude. You're taking care of us, dude. You're taking care of us. All right, let's get into it. We got some people popping into the chat first. Got to say what up, Albert. How we doing? People trickling in, but let's get into it. Today, we're going to be doing what we did the last 3 episodes. We did wide receivers, running backs, quarterbacks, hitting on Underdog ADP. It is best ball season right now. So if you want to join us for family best ball drafts, which we're doing every week, we're doing one on this Thursday at 7 o'clock with Joey Wright from Football Guys and from Front Yard Fantasy. Use promo code Fantasy Alarm on Underdog. They'll match up to 100% of your deposits, $100, and get in the Fantasy Alarm Discord so you can draft with us. Right now, we have promo code COOP running, COOP, get you 50% off first 6 months. But anyway, enough housekeeping. Let's get into it. I can pull up the ADP right now, which we have available over at Fantasy Alarm as well. The first one, Howard, pretty easy one to discuss. The only guy going in the first round, as of right now, the only guy going first 2 rounds, Mr. Travis Kelce. How often do you find yourself taking Travis Kelce? How high are you willing to go here? So zoom in a little bit for the people on their phones. Here's how the first round goes. Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chase, Christian McCaffrey, Tyreek Hill, Cooper Kupp, and then Kelce comes off the board there, but I've seen him come off a lot earlier, Howard. What are you seeing?
I've seen him middle to the back end of the first round. I mean, what I'm seeing right now is a lot of Jefferson and Chase, McCaffrey. Those seem to be the top 3 kind of locked in there. Seeing a lot of Bijan Robinson going up in the in that spot there. Tyreek Hill, Cooper Kupp is there. But yeah, listen, man, for the advantage that Kelce gives you, and let's face it, even with the rumor mill that DeAndre Hopkins could show up there, with everything that we've seen. Sorry, just seeing a comment in the chat from James Grande. Yeah. We all know I'm better looking than him.
For those just listening at home, James Grande popped in and said, "John and Pemba looks far more handsome today than normal. Must be the beard." That's
John, great. Yeah, John usually just has the chin strap, but it's not gray. So this gives me that distinguished look. Anyway, Kelce, he'll always be that number 1 target. Now, we did see defenses key in on him a lot more last year. While Patrick Mahomes was spreading the ball out all over the place, I still see him being the primary target receiver, for that team. But then I'll tell you what, man, once we get out of Kelce range, I'm super hesitant. Andrews here, I'm looking at this ADP board. Andrews in the 3rd, Hawkinson in the 4th, Kittle in the 5th, Goddard, Pitts in the 6th. And my question is there value there?
Yeah, that's the problem I run into. It's a combination of, are you going to get enough value, and also the opportunity cost. I look around, and because of the way running backs are being pushed down this year, I have a hard time pulling the trigger on Andrews, and I like Andrews. It's just a matter of, we're going to have to draft 2-3 tight ends in this format. I don't know if I can do it. So I'm with you. I Andrews is the one that I like most. I worry for guys like George Kittle and Dallas Goedert that they are, it's highly consolidated among the top 3 targets, but they're pretty clearly the third fiddle at best. And at times, George Kittle, uh, especially when all 4 guys were healthy, he was actually 4th in targets. I pulled it up. It was Debo and Ayuk in those games with like 40 targets, CMC with like 34, and Kittle had 28. So he was the 4th guy. Are you worried at all about guys that are the 3rd target on their team, or do you think these offenses can be explosive enough, Howard? Speaking specifically about the Kittle, Goddard, where they have 2 clear good wide receivers on the team.
Yeah, I'm not really buying into it. I mean, we've seen Kittle, and he shows those flashes, and he had that, he had one really great season. That I think, and I made this point on the Fantasy Alarm show yesterday. I think that people are going to be are chasing tight end points. They're overdrafting tight ends in general because we're so desperate to find somebody to match Travis Kelce's production. Mark Andrews, lead target receiver on his team. Well, I mean, it's been that way for a couple of seasons, but I mean, has he really put together a season besides 1 year where he's worth a 3rd round draft pick, worth even worth the 2nd round draft pick? Even in Todd Monken's offense, I still have some concerns there because you're bringing in you drafted Zay Flowers, you brought in Odell Beckham, you're getting Rashad Bateman back, and I think that that's kind of it's going to be a tougher situation to navigate for a lot of people in that realm. I think, Kittle, when you've got Ayuk and you've got Debo Samuel there, you've got a pass catching running back in Christian McCaffrey. I think that's tough. I think the one tight end that I think everybody's focusing on right now, and rightfully so, to discuss where his value lies, is TJ Hawkinson, because a lot of people are looking at the way that this offense is for New England right now. And, you got Justin Jefferson as the clear cut number 1. Adam Thielen's gone. So that vacates like 95 plus targets that we're looking at. We love Jordan Addison. We know that KJ Osborne is still there. But Hawkinson seems to be somebody who a lot of people are kind of bumping up for that big season that we're looking at for a tight end. So, no, I'm not interested in Kittle. I'm lukewarm on Goddard. Pitts even is has been a disappointment, and I don't know what to expect with
the
Ritter.
price there is as if he did last year what we wanted him to do, right? Like he didn't quite do it, and we're still chasing that value. That's why I am a little worried with Pitts as well.
So I think Hawkinson is probably the guy who is probably commanding the best focus for what you're looking for in a tight end for fantasy purposes. But is that early 4th round price tag, is that too much?
I know that's the problem there, because I'll tell you what, on Hawk, they wanted to get their money's worth, and they clearly did after they traded for him. I pulled up the weeks from the trade forward. It was the target leaders for tight ends were Travis Kelce with over 90, TJ Hawkinson with 82, and then no other tight end had more than 60. So for a period there, even with Adam Thielen there, he was the dude. The real question is whether Jordan Addison can be the man or not. And you and I both have been drafting a good amount of Jordan Addison. But I'll give one example. With the Atlanta Falcons 2019, even when Calvin Ridley came on, and we knew Calvin Ridley was good and he was awesome, Austin Hooper was still getting more targets than Calvin Ridley up until Hooper got hurt, which was week like 9. Then Ridley got 30 in 3 games. These rookies even the good ones, don't always come out firing on all cylinders. Even Odell Beckham Jr. his rookie year, or Mike Evans their rookie years, took like half a season. So Hawkinson, I'm with you. Hawkinson of that group, I'm in on. I just wish they were like all going in the 5th or 6th round. But the Hawkinson's creeping up because I think people are kind of catching on, and that's the way it goes. So after that group, and Pitts, I'm willing to take a stab on, but the guy here that kind of jumps at me is Darren Waller. Are you willing to take that stab? I feel like that's the first guy of this group where I can say, hey, this guy might lead his team in targets.
Well, and that's the thing. I mean, you've drafted Jalen Hyatt. I mean, but what else do you have there in New York as far as potential targets go? I'm like, let me just kind of pull up their depth chart for the sake of it. But I mean,
it's 100 of the same guy, Howard, right? Like
it really is.
how many Paris Campbells do you need, right?
Listen, Isaiah Hodgins won me the FSGA league last year. He did, because what he did when he came on strong late in the season, and I was dealing with all these, wacky injuries, Isaiah Hodgins was pulling in all of these great games. But the question is as we look towards it right now, I mean, look at what Brian Daboll has done with his offenses. He's always had some sort of like a real high end wide receiver. I mean, when he got Diggs, like they struggled with, in Buffalo looking for that number one wide receiver. They went out, they made that move for Diggs, and Daboll kind of centered everything around it. I don't think he's got anybody with Hodgins, Slayton, Campbell, Hyatt. I don't even know if Wan'Dale Robinson's going to be healthy. Sterling Shepard's never healthy. They got a lot of grotesqueness here for wide receivers. So Waller does become a very intriguing guy. The question is what's his mental state right now? What's his health looking like? And, because that's been since that first season with the Raiders. What have we gotten out of Darren Waller?
Yeah, I mean, the way I look at it is this: with this group of guys, if you're playing a best ball league with your buddies or with a contained league, I like to call it, just 12 people where one person gets all the money. Sometimes people go in and do like $500 leagues where it's only 12 people, one person gets a boatload of cash. In that case, I would be okay drafting like Kittle, Goddard, those guys. If I'm playing one of these big tournaments where only one person wins and only the top two guys from, like last year, I had some killer teams where the top two guys from my league went on and I went on. And then the very next week, I had a good week, but you need to be great to move on. Like in those formats, I have no interest in taking some of these guys, but Waller, I'm in. Waller, I say, if he's awesome, great. If he stinks, it doesn't matter if I come in fourth or last. I'm already toast anyway. So, right, might as well shoot the moon in those situations.
Right. Well, I mean, it also kind of comes down to, especially if you're talking from best ball strategy, how many tight ends do you draft? Like if I take Kelsey in the first round, I'll grab a second tight end late. I'll look like further down into that, into that Jawan Johnson, Sam Laporta range that we see right down there in round 14. But if I don't end up with Kelsey, chances are you won't see me with Andrews or Hawk. If you see me with Waller, I'm still going to have two other tight ends on my roster. I will take three in a best ball format because of just how crappy the tight end position really does kind of fall into.
It's crazy though. It's it gets even harder in redraft. At least in best ball, the touchdown dependent guys, they score a touchdown, they're in your lineup. They don't, then it's not so bad. Tyler Higbee was tight end 6 last year. Was he the most unstartable tight end 6 you've ever seen? From week to week, I was looking at the guy. He was putting up zeros in some of those weeks. So the next week, I'm like, not a chance. Week 17, he scored 30 points randomly, but nobody in their right mind even made it to the championship or starting him then. So that's a totally different game. But I'm with you. Mathematically speaking, the builds that have the best advance rates are 2 or 3 tight ends. So let's say, Howard, one of these guys slips, or take this top group, right? And they're all slipping in ADP, and you say to yourself, okay, at this point, so I'm going to take Dallas Goedert. Somebody has to. Where do you draw the line of these guys on the guys you're willing to only take 2 tight ends versus 3? Like personally, if I take Andrews, I'm only taking 2 tight ends. If I take Hawk, I'm only taking 2. Where do you draw that line? You think? Like, are you comfortable taking Kyle Pitts and just one other tight end?
No, I'd probably say that it would be Pitts and Waller, like in that range, to do it. I mean, again, Kyle Pitts, it's Arthur Smith, and we know that Arthur Smith loves his tight ends. We saw him, him favor them in Tennessee, right? I mean, I think Smith was wasn't he the tight ends coach when it was
Delaney Walker.
Thank you. Yep. I was blanking on his name. So we know that he does like the tight end, and and they went after Pitts, and they've got him. But I mean, he had that 1,000-yard season in his rookie year, but he scored 1 touchdown. Did he put up numbers that were like eye-popping last year? No, not by any stretch of the imagination. They've got a quarterback issue. If I'm taking Kyle Pitts, late round 6, That's early round 6, actually. If I'm taking Kyle Pitts early round 6, I'm definitely going to need 2 more tight ends to make me feel comfortable about the position.
Kyle Pitts is quick. He's becoming like the Tony Pollard of tight ends, right? Where like all the metrics guys and behind the scene guys are like, it's all there, right? But it's just, you need the rest of it, right? Like you need the actual production. I like target share is great and all if he's, tight end 2 in target share. But if they're throwing 25 times a game, the fewest times we've seen in 15 years, then it doesn't really matter, right? So it all boils down to betting on the quarterback. I mean, our own Matt Deutsch here thinks that Taylor Heinicke is going to take over as a QB over there. I mean, do you have any good feelings about Ritter? Are you taking, like, if you take Kyle Pitts, do you take Ritter too, or is that just a standalone play?
No, that's a standalone play.
Yeah. That's what I figured too.
I mean, no, I'm not a huge fan of Desmond Ritter. I think, can he be serviceable? Sure, no problem. The call for Taylor Heinicke. I mean, Heinicke's sitting there, with he is who he is. Like, I can't get behind a guy like Taylor Heinicke, even in this offense. Like, that's the thing. Deutsch saw Heinicke when he was in Washington, and he watched him the entire time. And let's face it, Washington didn't have anybody in front of him. Who was that complete bust of a pick? I mean, he was terrible.
Brutal. And the crazy thing about Taylor Heinicke is that this offseason he went on a podcast and I heard him say that, he's like, I'd like to start, but being a backup QB is like the best job in the world. And I'm like, is that the attitude you want from your starting quarterback? Was he serious with that?
Because he knows that he's nothing more than just a serviceable backup. I mean, you put him in Arthur Smith's offense and he's still not throwing 35 times a game. He's still throwing. It's still going to be, it's a run first scheme.
Yeah. And anyone that thinks that's going to change, look at what they did. They brought back Chris McGarry. They brought back the other guard there. They brought back Keith Smith, the fullback. They traded for Jonnu Smith. Like, they didn't draft any wide receivers. This team is going to do the same thing.
Right. I mean, if you think that signing Mac Hollins is a sign of things to come, no, it's definitely not. So, I mean, that's just that to me is it's a tough spot to be. And I think Ritter is is mediocre, and we'll see what happens. But Heinicke is not going to be somebody who all of a sudden, hey, here we go. Heinicke's in there. Load up on Drake London shares, load up on Mac Hollins shares, load up on Kyle Pitts, because these guys are going to throw 40 times a game. Why? Because they're going to be behind? No. You did not sit there at the 8th pick and draft Bijan Robinson while you still had a serviceable bruising back like Tyler Algier in your stable. And you didn't make that move so that you could just start throwing the ball willy-nilly with Taylor Heinicke.
Bingo. Yeah. Middle of the pack, probably the ceiling there. I mean, if it's super highly consolidated, you might be all right, but just know the floor is going to be crazy low anytime you have a coach like that. Next, we got to get to the elephant in the room pick here, Howard. My boy, Evan Engram, tight end 8 in ADP. Are you doing it?
It's a different kind of offense right now. And you know what? And I'll tell you what, like, I've been talking to a bunch of Jaguars people, and granted, listening to your local radio is very, detrimental to your fantasy game, because especially if you're, listening to your about your favorite players. But Brent Strange seems to be creating a little bit of buzz over there.
You've been listening to too much Tom Dempsey. Is that what happened?
Mike Dempsey.
Mike Dempsey
loves him, right? So, and Mike's on local radio over there. So, I mean, listen, I like Engram. I think he fit very well into the scheme. I don't necessarily know if he's going to see the same number of targets. I don't know how they're going to incorporate Strange into the offense, but you're also talking about, you still have Zay Jones and you still have Christian Kirk, and you just drafted or you're getting back Calvin Ridley now from suspension. So what kind of targets are we really seeing there? Yes, Trevor Lawrence did a lot of leaning on Evan Engram, but what's going to happen now when Doug Peterson likes to open this offense up even more so, because now he's got, like 3 really legitimate receiving weapons to drive secondaries nuts.
And that's the thing. People come to me and they're like, Ingram, we're doing it again. And I can't this year. Not with Ridley there. It's gonna be too crowded, man. And that's the thing about take lock. And you run into it a lot with the Devi. People that are really deep in the Devi and Dynasty is they've been following these guys for like years and years, and they have a hard time getting away from the idea that a talented player might not have the opportunity. So for
Yeah.
me, I'm holding him in Dynasty unless somebody his value is so high that I could even potentially trade him. But I'm holding him, hoping that next year he leaves after the franchise tag, signs somewhere where he can be a focal point of the offense again. But right now, I'm out. It's just he's too expensive for the situation. People are drafting him as if nothing changed from last year, and that's a mistake in my opinion. So crazy to say it. I know people disappointed, but
do you need a hug? You need like a little birthday,
yeah,
like a little hug here. Let me get you. Oh, you're all the way up there, Coop. I can't reach
buddy.
you, but let me tell you something, man. I want to put my arms around you and make you feel a little better. But I mean, again,
I'm not crying, Howard. I just have something. I have something in both my eyes.
Everybody wants to run it back, right? Run it back. Well, see, listen, you're not going to outshine me, Coop.
What you got? Oh, I don't know, man. I got a lot of options here, dude. I keep them ready to rock. So.
You do. I have like one pair because that's what happens when you wear glasses and you can't see shit. So
what you're doing though. Ready to rock with the sunglasses on the show, baby. Let's go.
Is this not the ultimate like lesson for people, especially when you're talking about tight ends? Name one tight end, not named Kelsey, who in the last 5 to 7 years you've been like, let's run it back. I'll just keep drafting this guy.
Right. Because as you pointed out, like George Kittle with the one season, once you investigate, the guy had 3 70-yard touchdowns. Is anyone in the world projecting any tight end to have 1 70-yard touchdown? You can't, right? None of these guys. So it's just like I wouldn't if I had to bet if there was going to be a single 70-yard touchdown by any tight end next year, I would say no, right? So and then you look at Andrews with his huge year that was a top 5 all time. Highly consolidated targets among 2 guys when they threw for some reason, the 9th most passes when they're usually bottom of the league. It's just, you can't chase it. You can't get caught in it. The ultimate way to be super right in this industry is to figure that out and tout the guys when you can, and then turn around and fade them when the situation's right. Anybody that just sticks with one guy the whole time, you run into a lot of pain. That happened to me sticking with Ingram, with Daniel Jones and some of those offenses. So you got to be careful there. But enough about Evan
Look at Pemba in the comments there. Me every year with TJ Hawkinson. And how's that gone for you, John? I mean, has that really me with Jordan Reed from Kevin Tompkins from 2013 to 2019?
Oh my God. Jordan Reed. That
are these league winning moments for you guys? And I'd love to see what John and Pemba's exposure is to TJ Hawkinson this year. Right at that price tag there, at that 4th round pick.
Yeah, exactly. John just got to hit once and then you victory lap. Yeah, I mean, dude, just in general, I was going through the tight ends. This is how hard it is in Dynasty. People are like, "Who do you like?" And I'm like, I can tell you who I think is most athletic, or we like their landing spot or whatever. But you go through it. 2014, the best tight end for fantasy was Logan Thomas, who was a quarterback. Right? 2015, Darren Waller was drafted as a wide receiver, washed out of the league, came back as a tight end. These are the best in fantasy. 2016, you have nobody even startable. It's like Hunter Henry, Austin Hooper. The year after that, Mark Andrews, but he wasn't even the first tight end drafted by his own team, right? Like Hayden Hurst was drafted first on his own team. George Kittle, the best tight end from his class, he was a 5th round pick. And they only took him because they took CJ Beathard at quarterback, who was his like roommate and best friend. Like the tight end, trying to pinpoint which of these tight ends is going to break out is a nightmare. As John and Pemba would say, it'll give you an ice cream headache. So you just got it in Dynasty. You just got to do your best. In this, we have a little more control. So let's move on from Ingram. Let's get into a guy that you have been a big fan of, and we love him talent wise. So it boils down to situation. I kind of like the situation. David Njoku. Are we going for that one this year, Howard?
If the roster stays as it is, yes, because of where he shows up on the target board for his team. There have been a lot of buzz rumors right now going that Deshaun Watson is lobbying to have DeAndre Hopkins brought over. Which, I mean, listen, if it happens, I think it's a great move, right? Watson then gets, Cooper on one side, Hopkins on the other, and you can kind of figure out what you want to do with your slot receiver, and figure out who best plays that role, whether it's Elijah Moore, Donovan Peoples-Jones, whoever. But if it stays as is, then yeah, I do think that Njoku is a guy that you want to continue to draft because, I mean, listen, we say it all the time. Where are you on the targets, in the target share on your team? If you have the potential, and I mean just the potential of being the number 2 guy on your team for targets, then yes, you are worth drafting in fantasy.
Let me ask you, Howard, as a Jets fan, over under how many weeks until Elijah Moore starts complaining about not getting the football?
Oh yeah, I mean
4. Last year he did it in the middle of a 3-game winning streak.
Dude, he's gonna pop off during camp, and they're gonna be like, you know what? Get the hell out of here.
Yeah, I can see it, man. So yeah, I'm dabbling now, but you're right. That's scary. There's a lot of guys, and that's what happens when you talk about fantasy football on the last day of May. There's a lot of the DeAndre Hopkinses and the Zeke Elliott's and Leonard Fournettes and Kareem Hunts that could come along and spoil some of these parties. So you do have to worry about that there. Whereas some of these teams, like you know that he's not going to sign with Minnesota because they have no money, right? So yeah, David Njoku. Next off the board. So for those just listening, here's a real quick recap. First round, you have Travis Kelce. Second round, no tight end goes. Third round on average, Mark Andrews. Fourth round, TJ Hawkinson. So only 3 tight ends through the first 4 rounds. Then 5th round, George Kittle. 6th round, you have Dallas Goedert and Kyle Pitts. 7th is Waller. 8th is Ingram. 9th is Njoku. So basically 1 per round all the way up through tight end 9 in round 9. And then in round 10, you have people start looking around and saying, oh man, I haven't drafted a tight end yet. So they click their queue to only show the tight ends and start picking from that group. So next you have tight end 10, Pat Freiermuth, tight end 11, Dalton Kincaid. Howard, let's say you're in Best Ball Mania and you're on the board here. And I'll go as far as to say, let's say Freiermuth, Kincaid, and then Njoku and Dalton Schultz. Those are the next 4. Who are you taking out of those guys? Say you're in the Best Ball Mania 4 trying to win $3 million. Who's your guy if you don't have a tight end yet?
I'm taking Njoku out of that group. I think Njoku first. Then I'd probably look at Dalton Schultz out of Houston because I think he's got the potential of seeing a strong target share. I know that we've got Brevin Jordan there, and I know that we've got who's the other guy? There's another tight end there with Houston as well. But like you brought in Dalton Schultz not to be your blocking tight end. You brought Dalton Schultz in to be your route runner, to be your pass catcher. He's not the yards after contact, the yards after the catch monster that you want him to be. But for the sake of what we're looking at right there, I think Njoku and Schultz probably see the majority of targets in there. Freiermuth to me is more of like every once in a while you'll use him to move the chains, but maybe he's a red zone target because of his size. Maybe.
So for me, Muth he's a dynasty stash because we like the talent, but we need his window of opportunity to be a little more open here. I need to know Kenny Pickett can throw more than 7 touchdowns last year. Walter Payton has more career touchdown passes than Kenny Pickett does right now. That's a fact.
Right, but you're also what you're looking at over there is I mean, with Deontay Johnson and George Pickens, like that's where your passing game needs to focus.
Right, exactly. And if this were like to have 2 high-end wide receivers and a high-end tight end, you need like 2013 Broncos with Peyton Manning throwing 50 touchdown passes.
Right.
I don't see that. You can make that argument for Joe Burrow if you want, but not for Kenny Pickett right now. So I'm with you. I'm out on him there. Schultz, I love the situation for Schultz because as you said, you look around that depth chart, no one's going to get that pass work at tight end over him. And it's the coaching staff from the 49ers coming over to build that 49ers offense. They went out and paid Andrew Beck like 2 years, $6 million with $4 million guaranteed. So he's going to be Kyle Juszczyk. When you start using that fullback, now the targets start getting a little more consolidated at the top, right? Dalton Schultz could lead that team in targets. So even though of that group, I love Chig, I can't draft Chig Okonkwo over Schultz. That's what leads me to miss Okonkwo at times, is that I kind of try and wait for someone else to draft Schultz, or I draft him and I miss on Chig. So yeah, that group there, I almost like those guys better, even flat out,
I don't,
than the group
you
before.
know, I don't know if I can get down with that with you, with Schultz over Okonkwo. You've got listen, you've got Treylon Burks, you've got a quarterback, a veteran quarterback in Ryan Tannehill. Yes, I know that you've got C.J. Stroud and young QBs, rookie QBs tend to lean on the tight end position, and that's probably why you bring in a guy like Dalton Schultz. But man, again, because I don't see Dalton Schultz running the routes that Okonkwo can run. I don't see. Do you see Dalton Schultz running that seam route?
Dalton Schultz is like he is the new Austin Hooper. Yeah, Austin Hooper is his best comparable player athletically, but it's just a matter of targets. Schultz is a safer pick, but Okonkwo is the upside pick. You know me, I'm all in. I'm all in on that. It's just it's hard. It's just hard for me to go to a guy that last year had 30 targets. But
I just feel like Dalton Schultz, you're gonna get your occasional crossing routes, but he's gonna be like Captain Buttonhook.
Yeah.
Do me a favor, run 4 yards out, turn around, and I'll hit you.
Right. Yeah. They signed him and they just held up a picture of Jason Witten and they were like, this is a mirror, right? Like, just go get lost somewhere and turn around.
Yeah.
Jason Witten to me was the craziest anomaly, because at the end of his career, he was not fast. He was gigantic. Yet how was he always open on third down?
He was the Peyton Hillis of tight end.
He was just lumbering around.
Fall down and give me 2 yards.
Yeah. Yeah. But yeah, so I mean, the thing with Chig, man, and we've talked to him to death at this point, but he kind of is the perfect, if everything goes right, he's the perfect storm of things we look for upside. On half of his statistics look just like rookie year Mark Andrews, where he only played like a 30% target share, but 30%, 35% snap share, but he was being targeted heavily. His yards per route run was even higher than Mark Andrews' as a rookie. And then you look at the other side of the storm coming in, and his physical ability, his speed, it's the same as George Kittle. That's how George Kittle had those, he ran a 4.52, George Kittle. That's how he had all those monster plays. Chig Okonkwo also ran a 4.52. He was the only tight end in the league last year.
I think we lost Coop. Look at that. Coop froze up. Or maybe it's definitely not my stream. I'm all like tight in. Are you there?
I'm on my screen, I'm here. Can you hear me?
I can hear you now. You froze on me there for a second.
Dude. I got caught in the Chig Okonkwo storm, dude. It froze up the vessel. So,
is that what happens when two tight end whisperers meet and they talk Chig Okonkwo? It breaks the internet.
I can picture there's a guy down at the local power plant and he's just sweating and he's like, he's yelling. He's like, guys running in with wrenches. They're like, I don't know what's happening. They started talking about Chig Okonkwo. We need every man on deck. The circuits are blown. But yeah, I mean, like, he could easily be if he just gets a full snap share, and Austin Hooper's gone, so it's possible. Josh Wiley, the guy they drafted, I'm not worried about. All right, that's it, Howard.
Let's dig deeper.
Chig over Schultz moving forward. That's the whole deal. But yeah, before we go deep outside the top 12, I have to ask you, Dalton Kincaid going at tight end 11. Is that too rich for you? I've seen him go even higher.
Oh, it's a little bit too rich for me. I mean,
the idea makes a lot of sense.
The idea makes a ton of sense. Absolutely. And you still have Dawson Knox, who's there, who can, handle more, more, you can tether Dawson Knox to the line before you tether Kincaid to the line. So it's really going to be a matter of, do the Bills bring in another wide receiver? Can Gabe Davis take a step forward? We disappointed everybody last year with his lack of consistency. And, is Khalil Shakir a wide receiver who can be relied upon heavily? Because listen, if you were to look at Dalton Kincaid in that Kyle Pitts mold, like maybe it definitely works better with Josh Allen as the QB than with the crap that's sitting over in Atlanta right now. So there is possibility there, but again, how many times have we gotten fish hooked on rookie tight ends with total upside, great upside.
A lot of times. And then it's like you look at the ones that actually were good. It's like there's like 4 of them, and one of them is like Mike Ditka. You're like, there's not a lot of, you know what I mean? Like,
right?
I was
go
through.
Google best rookie tight end seasons, and I think I want to say Kyle Pitts is like in the top 3.
Like 2, yeah. Pitts is like 2 after Ditka
because he caught. It was 1,000-yard season, but he had 1 touchdown.
Yeah. It's so I've gone through and done this before, and it's real bad. You have Evan Ingram, but he needed Odell Beckham Jr. got hurt after week 4, so it's kind of a fake. It's kind of a fake season a little bit. And then you have to go back to Jeremy Shockey. Like Jeremy Shockey's the next one. I know, Howard. That's what I'm talking about. It's like every time I picture Jeremy Shockey, I just picture that obnoxious tattoo. You remember that American flag eagle tattoo?
You know what though? I'm gonna say this right now. Nicest guy you'll ever meet in the world.
Oh yeah, when did you run into Shockey?
Shockey at a Madison Square Garden fish show.
Oh no way!
Was sitting right behind me and a buddy of mine.
Oh, that's so cool, dude. So
and like we turned around and we were just like, and this is, I mean, at the time, we were, my buddy and I were in the same like home league together. And we were like, oh my God, this is fucking Jeremy Shockey right now. And then like he was like such a good dude, because like, when you're at a fish show and you're young and possibly rolling, then you're just loving on everybody in your whole section. So when like a great jam comes on, you turn around, Shockey sitting right there, and you're like, dude, bam.
Oh, yeah, dude. Eddie, so he had the fish vibes going. He fit right in then, huh?
Oh, he did.
All right.
He definitely did.
Well, good, dude. So maybe Dalton Kincaid could be the next Jeremy Shockey. The conditions are there for a Zach Ertz type setup where he gets to play in the slot and Dawson Knox plays the inline Dallas Goedert role. So, it's there. It's just, I wish he was going a little later. Everyone's kind of buying in at hype value at tight end 11. So Kevin Tompkins in the chat saying that he is the stone worst value in the entire board. I don't know if I'd say stone worst, but you're making your bet with that one.
Out of all the tight ends that we've seen so far, or that we've discussed, who's the worst value to you?
I personally, and this is going to sound like blasphemy, but I personally believe that George Kittle at tight end 4 in the 5th round.
Yeah.
Like I went back and crunched the numbers every way possible. Because when I posted it, people were like, no. I was like, the numbers are there. And they were like, well, what about him just with Brock Purdy? And I pulled up those numbers. What about him just with Jimmy Garoppolo? I pulled up those numbers. Every time when everyone was healthy, he was the 4th target. It was masked with touchdowns, which touchdowns are fluky. To be honest, they truly are. Very rarely do we get guys that have double-digit touchdowns. Even Kelsey has only done it a couple times. So you got to be very careful with that. I just think that if I'm going to take a guy who I think is the 3rd or 4th target on his team, I can do that now. I mean, there are still guys that I think could be top 2 targets on their team. So of that group, I can't do it. Is there anybody else in that group, Howard, where you're just like, just not doing it? And sometimes for me, it's the people around that player too. Right. Like I look at Kittle and I'm like, am I going to take George Kittle here or am I going to take Aaron Jones? Right. Or of course I'm going to take Aaron Jones.
Yeah, I'm in that same boat as you. Out of all the guys who we've talked about so far, the worst value to me, just this is going off of Kevin Tompkins saying that Kincaid is the worst, that in the 10th round, 9th, 10th round. No, I don't think he's the worst. I would definitely say that Kittle is. And I hope that this conversation maybe drives Kittle's ADP down a little bit, because you know what? In the 7th or 8th round, well, then George Kittle becomes a little bit more intriguing. But where he's going right now, probably not interested there. Kincaid, again, yeah. Well, that's the problem with Kincaid, is because people just go off of the name recognition, and you see so many tight ends already off the board, and everybody's like, oh, I don't want to get caught without a good tight end. Well, wait a little longer.
Right. Yeah. I mean, so now we just rounded out the top 12 tight ends. Okonkwo is 13, but I mean, any drafts I'm in, he's going before a lot of these other guys. I have 0 Pat Freiermuth because I just can't bring myself to take him before Schultz and Okonkwo. So his ADP is going to need to change for me to have any of that going on. Another one I'm not drafting any of coming up. So now we're through round 12, 10 and 14. I'm not drafting any Cole Kmet. I had the Cole Kmet experience last year, which again, like he started the season with back-to-back zeros, playing the full game, and then somehow brute forced his way to tight end 8 through touchdowns. But my goodness, that Bears team was something to behold. What was it, like 24, 20, 22 pass attempts a game or something? Just outrageously. Belichick must have been watching those games, dude. Sweat on his brow. Like he must have been loving that power eye QB running. Ugh. I worry about Komet, especially now that they have DJ Moore. So I'm not doing any of that. Are
Well,
you?
that's the thing. Are they going to force those targets? I mean, I know Mooney's coming back from an ankle injury. Mooney like started to come alive a little bit late in the season. He was that wide receiver that everybody was like, oh, I drafted him in the 5th round. And he sucks. Well, yeah, because look at the offense that he's in right now. And so you move off of that. But yeah, I think with DJ Moore in there, I mean, they're going to try and force him into being that. I mean, he is the number one. I think they're going to force targets his way. And so yeah, Komet is that he's a touchdown dependent,
Yeah,
like most of these other guys that we're looking at.
yeah. I mean, it's true. Like he's a guy that I liked, but we knew that they were going to add weapons at some point. The worst part about last year is that with those terrible games, is they were winning a bunch of them, and I was like, this is the worst thing that could happen. You want those teams to be punished for their fantasy football sins, right? You don't want them to be able to just ground and pound to wins. That's the worst thing for fantasy football. But anyway, so Komet is the next one that goes. Then you have 3 guys going in the 13th round. Interesting names here. Greg Dulcich goes tight end 15. Tyler Higbee right after him, tight end 16. And then Irv Smith, tight end 17. I got to say with Tyler Higbee that I've never really liked his profile, the way they use him. But if we're going to be consistent in the way we kind of look for upside, does he not, Howard, have a chance to be a top 2 target on that team?
Oh, I think Higbee definitely has that potential. I know everybody keeps trying to make Van Jefferson into something, and it doesn't do anything for me there. I think passing to the tight end is something that definitely will work for the Rams. And Higbee, out of these 3 tight ends, I think Higbee's the one who profiles as the stronger target share out of the group. Like I love Greg Dulcich from a talent standpoint, but you're talking about you've got Sutton, you've got Judy, you're getting Tim Patrick back from the knee injury.
Marvin Mims in the 3rd round, Howard. They drafted another guy in the 3rd
Mims.
round.
I mean, KJ Hamler is kind of useless, but he's still floating around.
He also brought over a bunch of his friends, Marquez Callaway, and some of the scarier friends that Sean Payton is building, like a clown car of players that used to play for him. And I just like, how are you going to find snaps? So we just named, I don't know, 6 wide receivers, right? Typically at most you have about 3 on the field. He also brought over blocking tight end Adam Trotman, blocking tight end Chris Manhurst, blocking tight end Eric Tomlinson, fullback Michael Burton. Where is he going to find snaps? Even if that group of guys plays a 30% snap share, now at least one of those wide receivers at best is playing 60, 70. I mean, this could be a huge disaster for fantasy football, to be honest. So Greg Dulcich, I like stashing him in Dynasty, try and buy him low, but I just don't. And Sean Payton at the combine, they asked him about Greg Dulcich, and I was like, oh, nice. We're going to get some positive reinforcement here. He's like, yeah, some guys are kind of hard to evaluate. I was like, what? That doesn't sound good. That he looked at Greg Dulcich and said some guys are hard to evaluate.
They still have Albert O also?
Oh yeah, it's wild, man. That he brought over a ton of guys without getting rid of the other guys, and apparently they were shopping some of the wide receivers, and the price was too high, so they're just gonna hang on to him. That could be a nightmare for fantasy. So I'm with you there. And then on Irv Smith, I just look at it and I say, how many wide receiver injuries do we need for him to be one of the top 2 guys there? Right? Because it's not. We watched last year, Jamar Chase got hurt, and Hayden Hurst was still just kind of okay, right?
Yeah. Yeah, they don't throw to the tight end all that much. And it's so funny. I almost feel bad for Irv Smith because we keep talking about him like when he was in Minnesota and we were like, oh, well, he's a big body, he can be a nice red zone target. They aside from the fact that he's always hurt, they really weren't looking his direction, even that much. And I don't think that's the case. I don't think that's, that the move to Cincinnati is that great. You take out Hayden Hurst, who's a better pass catcher than Irv Smith, right? Better route runner too than Irv Smith. So then what are you doing here? So out of those three, it's Higbee, but it's ugly.
Yeah, they seem to be making it pretty clear. Like Cincinnati, like CJ Uzoma got paid more money than Hayden Hurst, and then now they're paying Irv Smith less. Like they're clearly kind of telling us that they don't value the position. It's not like they brought in Darren Waller here. So
Right.
I'm not interested. I'm honestly more interested in this next group than I am any of the three guys we just named. So in the next round, going off the board, you have Gerald Everett, tight end 20, Sam Laporta, tight end. Sorry, Juwan Johnson goes tight end 18, Sam Laporta 19, Gerald Everett 20. For those guys, I don't know. Juwan Johnson looking kind of interesting. I have a lot of people telling me that Michael Thomas is going to get hurt, and I don't necessarily personally believe that. I think that Michael Thomas is a good player.
Really going out on a limb there, people.
I know, right? But here's the thing that I tell those people: like, I'm willing to draft Michael Thomas. I'm willing to draft Juwan Johnson. If you somehow have some sort of information that you can predict that he will be injured this year, what are you doing about it? Right? How are you taking advantage of this knowledge that you have? Are you drafting Juwan Johnson? Are you drafting Rashid Shaheed? If everyone that has come to me and says he's definitely going to get hurt, Juwan Johnson should be on every team, should he not?
He should be on every team. Listen, again, like Juwan Johnson, built like a wide receiver, plays the tight end spot, converted over to there. But what I love about Juwan Johnson, like I don't even consider Michael Thomas. I'm sorry. I don't think, Thomas, to me, he didn't want to play with Drew Brees because of, some personal differences. Okay. Then the question was is he going to come back? And he didn't want to play. He didn't want to play with Andy Dalton. He wanted to play with Jameis Winston, but Jameis Winston sucks and got hurt anyway. So, Michael Thomas with his, I don't know, seven surgeries on his toe. I mean, come on, really?
He had the high ankle sprain with the surgery that cost him the entire year, and then he had the toe last year. So there are some lower body injuries there. I don't know. He seems excited to play with Derek Carr. I'm willing to sprinkle some Michael Thomas in there.
How like, I mean, come on. How long before Michael Thomas gets completely frustrated with Derek Carr?
I mean, Michael Thomas has been a bit outspoken in the past, but I don't know. We'll have to see. Let's see.
Quits on his team. I have zero interest in him. He's not the Michael Thomas of old.
I will give him this. The year that he hurt his ankle, people say he didn't play. He came back and played in the playoffs at least. But you're right. Let's just say he's about as boom bust of a pick as you can make. So
puts Juwan Johnson in a spot where he could be the number 2 target in that passing game.
Yeah. And they paid him, gave him a 2-year deal to bring him back. So they clearly like him. Like anytime you get that second contract, I love that. Hey, that for people out there at home, that's when you buy the jersey. Don't buy it. You know what I mean? Don't buy it on their rookie contract. They're before they change teams or change their number. Wait until that second contract. That's when you buy the jersey, the 3 or 4 year second deal. Then you're in. Okay, so Sam Laporta, you doing it? It's same arguments that we make for Dalton Kincaid can be made for Sam Laporta, can they not?
I think they can, and it's just a matter of when you look at it, you've got Jameson Williams who's suspended. You've got Amon-Ra St. Brown there. They're going to probably try and line up Jahmyr Gibbs in the slot a ton. Mm-hmm. So the question is what kind of target share are we looking for with Sam Laporta? Because I mean, it's not like Brock Wright was really lighting it up. Brock Wright was, Brock Wright last year was probably what Tyler Higbee was 5 years ago when he would catch one pass for 10 yards and a touchdown.
Yeah. And
so is there more room for Laporta? I mean, you actually know Laporta better than I do. So you tell me.
Well, that's the thing is that Laporta, I would have loved for him to, like, people see the tight end depth chart like we talked about, and it's good that there's no one there, but you want him playing the slot, right? So for now, Jameson Williams is out. But the problem with these big tournaments is he'll be back for the part of the year that matters most. And I think that's why you see Kincaid go a lot earlier. And I wish they didn't have Amon-Ra St. Brown because, he's a slot monster. You want our guy in the slot. So, yeah, Laporta, I'm taking him at ADP because I just don't like some of these other guys like Gerald Everett. Even last year, Gerald Everett, even with all the injuries to everybody, he only played 70% of the snaps in 2 games. He was a part-time player. So And now they drafted a wide receiver in the first round. Mike Williams and Keenan Allen are back. Zero interest in Gerald Everett personally. Zero. If you think all those guys can be those guys and Gerald Everett can pop, then just draft Justin Herbert. Because if all those guys are good in fantasy, whoever has Justin Herbert already won the league, right, Howard?
Whoever had Justin Herbert won the league.
I'm saying if all those guys can pop, all three wide receivers,
if every wide receiver and the tight end can pop, yes.
Then it doesn't matter who has Gerald Everett, right? It matters whoever had Justin Herbert already won.
Meanwhile, Kellen Moore telling the Chargers that they need to run the ball more also.
Which is crazy because he got shipped off from the Cowboys for throwing the ball too much. And he shows up and he's like, hey, we got to run it. We got to run it more. I'll get fired like I did last time. Do you think that's what the case is? Yeah.
I think that's what, I'm not, you know what? I mean, I don't know what to expect here. Like, I know Joe Lombardi's offense, and I know what Kellen Moore's offense was when he was with the Cowboys. The difference is like he says he wants to run the ball more, but he doesn't have a back who you want to put the ball, into his hands 20 times a game. Like Eckler's not a between the tackles kind of guy. And if you try to utilize him as such, he's going to get hurt a lot quicker than if you're just utilizing him in the passing game, which is what Joe Lombardi did, and rightfully so. So I'm, I like Justin Herbert because of the weapons that he's got there. I don't know if I can go down to Gerald Everett, though, as far as a good target share.
Here's my hot take. Kellen Moore, coming over from the Cowboys, has already talked to Zeke Elliott. Zeke doesn't want to do training camp and all that stuff. I think he's coming in to be that early down back. That's the hot take. Zeke joining Kellen Moore to be the early down back. Austin Eckler pass down back. There you have it.
That's I could definitely see that happening.
Yeah. So, okay. Now we're towards the end of the show. We're at the part of the draft where ADP doesn't matter. It does not matter at all. You just have a group of guys left and you got to pick the ones you like. So here are the guys actually going drafted based on ADP. You have Dawson Knox, Taysom Hill. Oh my God. Make it stop, dude. Make it stop. You see that I tweeted that. My mom asked me what I wanted for my birthday, and I said I asked for the same thing I ask for every year. For Taysom Hill's tight end eligibility to be removed. Like, get rid of it. I'm so tired of it. So Taysom Hill, you got the rookie Michael Mayer, Patriots new slot receiver Mike Gesicki, Hayden Hurst in Carolina, Tyler Conklin with Aaron Rodgers coming to town. You got Trey McBride with Zach Ertz potentially missing games, Isaiah Likely as, I don't know, maybe they use him at wide receiver in Todd Monken's offense. Then you got Noah Fant and Jelani Woods. Those are the last ones. Who are those guys do you even have shares of first and foremost? Like, obviously there's guys in that range that you're just going to have none of. So who have you actually taken?
I have taken Hurst
Yep.
as a third tight end. Not a second, but a third.
There's a lot of uncertainty there. That's what and at these picks, we lean into uncertainty.
Yeah.
Who knows? Adam Thielen gets hurt. DJ Chark and Adam Thielen hurt every year. So, who knows? Hayden Hurst could be right up in that mix.
I've got him. I've got a little bit of Michael Mayer also, again, as a third tight end. And splash a little Trey McBride in there. I think you've got Trey McBride as the cover boy of your scratch ticket article, don't you?
Did they put Trey? I told them to put John Mechie as the cover, but Trey, yeah. So Trey, I do the whole scratch ticket idea is that, and it's not really a best ball idea, but leagues with waivers, if you're drafting early or drafting dynasty, use that last waiver spot on a guy like McBride or Mechie. And when week 1 rolls around, if they're starting, you got a guy. If they're not starting, then you have that valuable waiver spot. So that's the whole scratch ticket idea. Feeling good about, like, hey, if Zach Ertz is going to miss half the year, or now that Hopkins is gone, if Zach Ertz is going to get traded, why don't Trey McBride right there, man? And he is free, last round pick in these. What about Mike Gesicki? Me, Patriots guy, maybe hard to be a little unbiased at times. I do my best. Let me ask you, as a Jets fan, Mike Gesicki potentially playing slot for the Patriots. What are your thoughts? What are the possibilities?
I think there are possibilities there. There are. like Ferkser can be held, in more of a blocking range there, but Hunter Henry is a route runner, not a blocker. So Gesicki's kind of in that realm. We keep like this is the big problem. And I think it's a huge problem because fantasy football players chase what was, and we're still chasing Gronkowski, Aaron Hernandez.
Yeah.
Like when that was in its heyday for the Patriots, it was the greatest thing since sliced bread, and everyone was like, "We've never seen two tight ends, be able to fill the stat sheet on a single offense." And I think that once we put two tight ends who can catch passes onto the Patriots, I think that's what everybody's gravitating towards. So, I mean, as a
Remember when
scratch ticket, yes.
remember when Devin Asiasi and Dalton Keene were going to be the next Gronk Hernandez drafted in the same year, Howard? I mean, what? That's how it works, right? So yeah, I'm with you.
Let's face it, Hunter Henry and Mike Gesicki, both guys are too nice to fall into that Aaron Hernandez role.
Yeah, they're not lining up on the help in the backfield to blow snot and just running up the middle. He was getting handoffs up the gut, Aaron Hernandez. They're like, just go get him, dude. So yeah, I mean, not quite the same guys for sure. I just think that, when you think about that team, Juju Smith-Schuster, I think, will lead the team in targets. Who's going to be second, Howard? That's the question, right? So there's a possibility he falls in there. But anyway, hey, just want to say thank you, everyone, for joining us. Howard, thank you for joining me on my birthday. John and Pemba, no thank you for not showing up today. We'll catch up with him next week. Everybody out there, if you want to get in and draft with us, if you look at this ADP like I do and say this is bonkers, like it's upside down, there's so many values, go on Underdog, use promo code Fantasy Alarm. They'll match 100% of your deposit up to $100. You deposit $20, they'll match 20. Deposit 100, they'll match 100. After you do that, make sure if you're already a Fantasy Alarm member, make sure you're set up with the Fantasy Alarm Discord. We have an article on that, or just reach out to support. They'll get you set up. If you're not a member yet, use promo code COOP. It'll give you 6 months at 50% off, and you'll get 7 days free trial. You can pop in, check out the Discord. Heck, we're doing a draft this week. You can probably get into a draft and decide if you want to be part of the Fantasy Alarm family moving forward. So that's what we got going on. Howard, thank you for joining us, man. What do you got going on later today? You are always a man of many endeavors, are you not?
Well, I've got the Better Sports Betting Show with Dan Servadidio. That's at 4 p.m. Eastern. I'll be on that, recording the Cash It podcast with Adam Ronis. And then, of course, I'm on Sirius XM Fantasy Sports Radio from 6 to 8. But, I mean, let's face it, man. I'm going to go to the store right now because I'm going to have 5 minutes of time. I'm going to buy a whole mess of cupcakes, and I'm going to celebrate your birthday by shoveling a whole bunch of cupcakes into my face. What are you doing for your birthday tonight? That's what I want to know.
Hey, I wouldn't want any more. I'll tell you, my birthday already started this weekend. My birthday started for Memorial Day, and this is the only the opening ceremony. Since my birthday's May 31st, June is my birthday month. So, we're gonna go out to dinner. Maybe I'll get some cupcakes myself. I already got my bourbon shirt on, so maybe a little bourbon. But we got a lot of birthday celebrating to do, Howard. This is only the beginning. And everybody out there, just want to say thank you so much for joining us, and we will catch you at this time next Wednesday, 1 o'clock Eastern time. Cheers.